Now, this is a gospel reading that strikes to the very heart of the gospel, the good news. Blessed are you, many gifts to be given from on high, glory and joy and strength and power and comfort and the truest, most purest kind of pleasure to see the one you love the most and he who loves you most to gaze back in love. Beatitude. Jesus Christ goes up the mountain just like Moses did of old. But instead of returning down the mountain, he invites the people up to God. And so the people come and sit at the feet of the Master, and they are taught by God himself. Not commandments to replace the first, but the first are stepping stones to these. The old are warnings, and true enough. Not a jot of the old law is to be taken away, but they are to be fulfilled. And behold, the fulfillment of the law. It is love in the face of hate and pain and suffering. And forward you press, unwilling to abandon the old, but being strengthened by the new and called into far greater glory. It is only the humble who can receive such a paradox. And my brothers and sisters, you must be as humble as a little child if you desire to enter the kingdom of heaven. But the meek are not naive. No, the meek are as clever as serpents. I was blessed this Friday. I took a little mini pilgrimage down to Terre Haute, Indiana. Did you know there is a saint buried in Terre Haute, Indiana, canonized by the church? Saint Mother Theodore Guerin. I was in 6th grade class 2 weeks ago, I think, and I was talking about saints. Fancy that, me talking about saints. And I was just going on and on. Fancy that, me going on and on. Some of you pay attention. And I said, there's a saint buried down there. I said, I've never gone, but I think I'm going to go. And I said, and working myself into a fury as per norm, I said, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to offer my intentions for you, for the 6th grade class. And I walked out of that teaching and I sat down in my office and said, when am I going to go? And I looked at the calendar. I said, oh, Friday. So I went. Mother Theodore Guerin was a woman of beatitude. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Her 2 brothers died in a fire when she was a little girl. Her father was murdered on his way back from work. And she had to take care of her mother, who had, quite understandably, a nervous breakdown, even though she wished to be a sister. Well, after some years, her mother finally did recover. And no doubt the good Theodore Guerin had mourned herself. But she trusted in these promises, and so she gave her whole heart to the Lord. And word reached France of these poor Hoosiers who had no one to teach them their catechism, no one to bring them closer to God, to lead them up the mountain. And Theodore, the good mother, said, oh, I can't be the one to go. And the priest they had sent said, Mother, if you do not go, this mission will collapse. And these people will be left without the proper teachings and the joy that comes with. It took her 40 days to cross the Atlantic Ocean. 2 major storms nearly killed her. And then when they got there was still a storm, and they made them get out in a rowboat in the middle of the rain. And the mother said to her sisters, who she had brought along, I think there were 6 of them, she said, come, if this is our end, this is our end, but say nothing. Well, to the East Coast she arrived, and off to the Midwest they sent her out into the woods. And that was, in fact, the name of the first school she established, St. Mary of the Woods. And she worked and she strove for righteousness. She was hungry for it. And the world kept trying to knock her down. The first convent burned, and the bishop was not very kind to her. In fact, he got into a disagreement with her over something of the world. I think it was the price, 45,000 francs had been given to her for the cause, and the bishop wanted it. And he would not release the funds to her. And she constantly went to him and begged for its release. It got so bad, my brothers and sisters, that he invited her into his study, and she walked in, and he walked past her and closed and locked the door on her. And he left her in the study for hours. Not a good man, not a man of beatitude, at least not at that point in his life. What became of him, I do not know. He is not canonized a saint and buried in Terre Haute. But learn the lesson of Mother Theodore, my brothers and sisters. Her sisters, realizing she had been absent for hours, went to the bishop's house. And they heard her pounding on the study door of the bishop. And they went and found the bishop, said, "You've locked the head of our order in your study." The bishop, who knows how he appeared, went back to the study with the sisters and unlocked the door. The door opened. Now came this woman of beatitude. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. Do you know what the good mother did? She walked out, and she dropped to her knees, and she asked for the bishop's blessing. Just like that, the balance of power changed. She could have yelled, she could have screamed, she could have stormed out. But here is a priest, a man of God, and in all humility, the weakest asked for the blessing of the strong. And knowing his place, the bishop gave her his blessing. And without another word, the good mother departed. 5 or 7 weeks later, he was replaced. The meek inherit the land. My brothers and sisters, live the faith. Glory in it. Glory in your weakness. You are not doormats. You are children of the most powerful being who created being. Rejoice and be glad when somebody comes after you because of that fact. He's promised you great gifts because of it. Well, don't rely on your own strength or power or cleverness of tongue or skill with money. Compound interest is good. It's not as good as compound grace. God loves you. He's promised you so much. What do you want to invest in truly? Do you want the 45,000 francs, or do you want your treasure stored up and accumulating in heaven? Because I promise you it's all real. I've gone and I've prayed by the grave of a woman who knew it to be true. It was her sisters that taught my father. It was that which gave my father the love of Catholicism. It was that love of Catholicism my old man passed on to me, and so I preach it to you this morning. Be people of beatitude, and you will be blessed in abundance. Well, that being said, I now invite our pastor forward to discuss matters of abundance.